The best open world games 2023. Let's go.
15, it's Final Fantasy 16. Now, it's been a while since there's been a Final Fantasy game that just straightforwardly does turn-based combat, but a
True.
lot of people looked at this game as a pretty significant departure because it basically just went full Devil May Cry with the combat, and I like it. I think that it's actually quite good. This game
Yeah, a lot of people did not like this. There were fans that liked it, and there were people that did not like it, because Final Fantasy started as a turn-based game. It is what it is. But at the end of the day, remember, you're right if you liked it, you're right if you didn't like it. Games change over time. If you wanted turn-based, well, you know, it is what it is. But you can't blame the devs for going this way. They have been going this way for a while now, you know? You're not wrong for liking it, you're not wrong for not liking it. It is what it is, you know? We just have to live with this now.
game was met with a little bit of suspicion when it first came out, primarily due to that, but when they released a demo, for me, it was kind of like, all right, yeah, I'm there for this kind of Final Fantasy game. And I'm kind of a tough sell. I'm burnt on the Game of Thrones style story, and they went all in on that kind of thing, but they did a good job,
Okay.
I think, telling this kind of story. They interweave societal inequalities and power dynamics with personal vengeance. And although some people gave it a bit of criticism for very linear progression, I guess my question is, what do you think a Final Fantasy game is going to do? Like,
He missed the attack.
Final Fantasy isn't Breath of the Wild. It never has been. It's always been a pretty linear affair.
And yes, that is a completely spot-on point. Final Fantasy is, well, pretty much exclusively a linear game, honestly. You don't actually have a lot of freedom. A lot of people say, oh, old games had a lot of freedoms. No, they didn't. They created the illusion of freedom in reality. You had a set path. This is where you start, and this is where you go. And when you get there, you find something that allows you to go here. And then, you know, you find here something that allows you to go back, go the first path, go to the middle, and then branch off in another direction. It creates a good illusion of freedom, but it's not actually freedom. It's completely linear.
And yeah, this is a 50-hour Devil May Cry game with political intrigue and very personal narratives that also has this really great system for keeping track of what the hell you're supposed to know. I had a hell of a time with this game, and I would highly recommend it. Only thing is, right now it's currently exclusive on PS5. I'm sure we're going to see it on PC sometime within the next year, and
Probably.
It also feels weird that we wouldn't see it on Xbox. But who knows? Great game, though. At number 14 is Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom
Yeah.
Liberty. So we all know the riches to rags to riches story of
True.
Cyberpunk 2077 at this point. If you need a nice detailed recap, your old pal Falcon did a video on it a few weeks ago. Go ahead and give that one a watch. But they didn't just spend the
Hey, we actually watched it.
3 years after Cyberpunk 2077's launch, making it into a much better game. They also worked on an expansion called Phantom Liberty, and it's awesome. Everything that Cyberpunk 2077 did correctly, both at launch and after all of the fixing, is done even better here. It gives us a new area called Dogtown. It's probably the most interesting district.
Mommy. But yeah. You know what CDPR Red did correctly? You know, the people who made Cyberpunk? They did this amazing thing called, well, you know when your player base gives you feedback, hey, this one thing, it's good, we like it. You know what they did? They took that one thing and made it better. They gave you more of that thing. They iterated on it. They kept making it better. And when people said, we don't like this, you know what they did? They made it less unlikable. They either completely removed it or they reworked it. I know, crazy. Man, your average AAA gaming developer, like for example Blizzard, Ubisoft, or, you know, Bethesda, typically when someone says, oh, we don't like this, you know what they do? They make it more expansive. They make the thing that you don't like bigger and more time consuming. And when you find something that you like, they typically nerf it or ban you for using it. But yeah, I know. CDPR Red did not do anything amazing out of the box or anything. They just listened to player feedback and then implemented it. It's a very simple thing that no one seems to do properly nowadays, sadly.
we've seen yet, and it drops us into a political spy thriller, which is not what Cyberpunk 2077 is. However, it works, and it works really well. It works so well that, in my opinion, it makes Cyberpunk 2077 feel complete. It gives you a new ending. It benefits from all of the revamps of the 2.0 update. I mean, it's just a fantastic expansion that finally gives you a real ending. You know, one that actually resolves the conflict of the story, the true conflict of the story. It's Cyberpunk 2077. There's still a couple of minor technical issues. It's certainly not a perfect game, but wow, is it so much better than when it launched, and Phantom Liberty is just a fantastic additional campaign. And number 13 is The Crew Motorfest, brought to us by Ubisoft Ivory Tower, which, if you aren't familiar, are actually made up of developers from Edensoft, the developers behind Test Drive Unlimited 2.
Okay, yeah, that was funny. Man, you hear that Ubisoft made a good game? Yeah, I know, unbelievable. But yeah, the secret is Ubisoft didn't actually make this. It was someone working under Ubisoft. It's the same thing with Bethesda or... well, honestly, Blizzard. The people who made Diablo at the start were not the people who kept on making it, and same with World of Warcraft, right? But man, yeah, Ubisoft. Make a good game, their only good game, and it's actually made by other people. They were just contracted by Ubisoft to do it. It's the same thing with Bethesda. Bethesda's best game by far is Fallout New Vegas. Without question, even. And, well, Bethesda didn't actually make Fallout New Vegas. They contracted Obsidian to do it for them, and there you go. Bethesda's best game is made by another studio. It's funny.
And there's a lot that the Crew Motorfest shares with that game in its DNA. It's set on Oahu, for one. However, obviously, this one is a much more striking and visually elaborate version of it. There's more of a decade in between these two games, obviously. But it also takes a page from Forza Horizon 5 in its structure of how the game is put together. It's very much an arcade-style racer. You have a few options for tweaking difficulty and assists, but you're not going to turn this game into Gran Turismo. And I'm fine with that. I do love me some Gran Turismo, but I kind of like arcade racers a little bit more.
Yeah, I don't play racers. I mean, either you know what this is, or you don't and you don't care. It's pretty much just two possibilities here. Hey, it is what it is. Racing games are definitely not for everyone.
There are a couple of things that people might not love.
But it looks fancy, not gonna lie.
Love about it. It's an entirely online game. There's no offline mode. That said, there are both AI and real players. You might be confused by that. You might be relieved to hear that. I personally think it's a positive because it makes it so that the game is always, you know, at least full feeling. But man, it does such a good job of Oahu. It is a cool, big, open environment. And although the map is actually a little smaller than previous Crew games, the scale is a little bit bigger, if that makes sense. Like the Crew 2's United States was not the scale of the United States, but Oahu here feels...
I will take smaller but better, honestly, for every game, okay? Except Starfield. Yeah, if you condensed Starfield to 2 planets, would still be trash.
Pretty big. Maybe not necessarily the scale of Oahu exactly, but I don't know. I think this one really comes together very well. So if you're looking for a good open world racer, this is where to go. And number 12 is Sons of the Forest, the sequel to The Forest, which released in early access back in February.
Ah, yes. 3-legged biddy woman. Nice.
I mean, it's really hard to talk about this game without talking how pretty it is. It's pretty damn good at establishing both like beautiful but haunting and maybe even chilling atmosphere. To call Sons of the Forest atmospheric would be an understatement. It does a very good job establishing a mood, and that mood persists throughout pretty much the whole thing. And it meaningfully expands on almost everything that the original Forest gave us. It's got great combat, crafting, and progression stuff, but it merits reminding everybody also this is still early access. There's stuff that will probably be more fleshed out.
Still? Really? Wow.
By the time the game truly is finally released. But even so, Sons of the Forest is an incredible open world experience as it is today. And number 11 is Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Again, this is a PS5 exclusive. This one will probably be out.
Dude, you just look at the web swinging, and every time you're like, yeah, this seems pretty good.
On PC, but not on Xbox. Obviously, Spider-Man does an incredible job with New York City. Spider-Man 2 expands out to Queens and Brooklyn and gives us that same incredible attention to detail, as well as necessitates some
Was that Green Arrow and whatever his name was, Arsenal?
new traversal techniques from the Spidered Man. Combat is both similar and different from the first game. You've got parries, for instance. The bosses are much harder in this game. They've really done a lot to ensure that this is not just a repeat game, but a new game that meaningfully builds.
No, yeah, it definitely looks fancy.
On what
the chase sequences are really good in my opinion.
First
They look
games
cool.
did. I mean, between Kraven and Venom and the Black Spider suit and all of these great things that interconnect a truly good story with a lot of the same stuff that you would normally expect in a couple of different curveball takes that really work. I mean, what more is there to say? This is basically the big, bad, crazy Spider-Man sequel we all wanted.
Yeah, and there's a next Spider-Man coming already, by the way.
And number 10 is Star Wars Jedi Survivor. In my opinion, a tour de force sequel that takes everything that makes the original.
Do you really call Jedi Survivor an open world game? I don't know about that, especially with all the bugs that it had and blah blah blah. I mean, this is gonna be a little bit of a stinker for many considering,
Original great, builds on it, and even gives itself more of its own identity as a series. You just got this incredibly intricate level design that takes a kind of Metroidvania approach that just, I mean, it takes all the abilities from the first game, either builds on them, adds a bunch of new abilities, including new stances, new force powers, and this just does a better job of making Cal Kestis a little bit more nuanced and complex in terms of the narrative. This one's a little bit more tenuous, a little bit more precarious, so to speak. I don't know. Really, the only complaint I ever had was performance at launch. It was not good. It's a little better now, but I mean, this is a game that really does a great job building on Fallen Order. And number 9 is Hogwarts.
I mean, I guess. Most people like Jedi Survivors, but it's like, you know, does it deserve so much praise? I don't know about that one.
It's Legacy, a game that took the Harry Potter universe and gave us a pretty damn good open world experience, not only in terms of the design of the world, but also in the various systems.
I mean, everyone liked this game, and obviously there were some problems with it. Yeah, maybe you did shoot the lunch lady with Avacadavra instead in front of the whole school, and, you know, nothing really happened to you. But, you know, it is what it is. Voldemort did the same thing, probably, and it was fine. I mean, yeah, this was a really good game. Everyone liked it. It ran its course. People loved it. The reception for this was really, really good. And that's pretty much it. And now we're just waiting for the next game. Kind of simple. Also, it has mods. Extremely hot looking mods. Not gonna lie, boys. I mean,
such as the combat system, the quest system, etc. It's just a really damn good version of what you would expect Harry Potter to be in an open world. I mean, people who don't love Harry Potter might find a little less to love, but even so, I'm not a big Harry Potter fan.
I mean, it just has the name Harry Potter. I'm also not a big Harry Potter fan, but, you know, it's still a good game. Everyone who doesn't even like Harry Potter likes this game. It is what it is.
And I thought this was a pretty good game. It does a lot of the same open world stuff that you'd expect from any open world game, but it does it pretty well. And I think just exploring the world is actually pretty darn satisfying, and it tells an interesting story set within the wizarding world. And number 8 is Dead Island 2, a game that faced multiple delays and development shifts, originally planned to come out.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I missed that this is out. I haven't seen anything of it. I don't know. Dude, everyone knows about the Dead Island 1. I mean, Dead Island 1 was absolutely freaky deaky and good. But this, I don't know. Is it good? I have no clue about it.
way back in 2015, finally launched 8 years later this year, and honestly, it's a great follow-up. It's kind of an interesting story revolving around some immune people, and it introduces this card-based level-up system. It allows for a fair amount of customization, makes it
card-based level-up system. That sounds awfully dangerously close to Fallout 76, and that is not a game that you want to be. 5 years later, and Fallout 76 is still one of the worst things that humanity has ever seen. Aliens are never gonna contact us because some people are calling Fallout 76 entertainment. I have played 40 hours of that game 6 months ago. Still not worth it. Still not worth it in the even slightest of senses. Don't.
Feel a little bit like an RPG, but it also feels so much like the original Dead Island. And everything is beautiful. It's very detailed and well thought out. Dam Buster Studios, the folks that made this game, I mean, they aced it. Hell of a game. And number 7 is Season, A Letter to the Future, a PlayStation and PC game, which is a very different looking game that involves a lot of exploration and documenting of the world as it ends. This is one of those games that it's very narrative driven.
Is this one more of those games where you're the last survivor in the world, blobbity bloop blah? I don't know about that one.
It has no real combat. It's got kind of a slow and introspective narrative, and it's paced appropriately for that goal.
No, there's also a kid, so how is the world ending?
That doesn't mean it's not good. It is good. It won Best Art Direction at the 2023 Webby Awards, and I think deservedly
The who and what awards?
so. It's a completely unique looking world and just setting all together. And maybe not for everybody, but at least people who are looking for something beautiful and new.
I mean, not for me for sure, but I understand people who just like these sort of things. Hey, you can tell really good and breathtaking stories in games like this, honestly. You can do that. No words, no nothing. Just, just locations. And that's really good, not gonna lie.
There's absolutely plenty of that to go around here. And number 6 is Diablo IV, a game that updates the Diablo formula with a...
Are we really gonna call it open world? I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I don't think Diablo IV deserves any awards here.
Much larger world, but not one that sacrifices the meticulous design of previous Diablo games. It also takes place 50 years after Diablo 3, Reaper of Souls. It has a slightly more...
These are all cutscenes, and I have no idea even what this ability now was. I don't think there is an ability like
more
this.
Responsive and refined hack and slash formula than previous entries.
Well, no, not really. It's kind of shit.
It's not foreign to what you would expect from...
And now it's gonna have a $100 expansion because, reasons.
Diablo, but in terms of dodging or crowd control, it's a game that feels great, and it exists in this huge, incredible world. And number 5 is Atomic Heart, the alternate history Soviet Union. I hesitate to fully...
Show us mommy robots doing nasty things.
I answer to BioShock, but obviously there is a large element of that here. This is one of those games that...
Wait, was this even open world?
Gives you a pretty nice big area, including a lot of interiors and exteriors, full of bizarre, weird, sometimes beautiful stuff, whether it be architecture or enemies or even in some cases some vistas. It's also got really fast-paced, satisfying combat. And it's one of those games that kind of doesn't necessarily have...
I don't know about this one. Were people really excited about this? I mean, the two robot mommies were kind of good, you know what I'm saying, boy? But, everything else was kind of forgettable, I think, about this, as much as people talked about it.
The most well-written and serious main character of all time, but in a lot of ways, I kind of find it charming. It's got that kind of jank element. Some people think the protagonist is kind of irritating. I think that there's something old school about him that I like. Not necessarily in a straightforward way where it's just like, this is
Granny with a Kalashnikov. Yeah, that's kind of classy.
completely good. But there's some element of that throwback that's interesting. And overall, Atomic Heart is a really worthwhile experience. I enjoy the hell out of it. It tells a weird story in a really weird way in a great open world. And number 4 is Assassin's Creed Mirage. Now, this one
really
gives us
the Assassin's Creed where you don't even have water physics because Ubisoft was that incompetent. Are we kidding? Assassin's Creed, no one cares. The game, really?
Attempt to reroute the Assassin's Creed series in the more old school gameplay without abandoning everything that is new, and I think does a pretty good job. The Baghdad that they made for this game is fantastic. It's a very good Assassin's Creed open world, and if you like Assassin's Creed games, they did Baghdad right, particularly if you like the old school type of Assassin's Creed game. Now, I'm not going to say
I'm not sure if they did anything right.
that it is a game changer or that it brings anything particularly new to the series, just that it kind of gives us an homage to the old school Assassin's Creed without necessarily abandoning the things that it has done as the years have passed. It's actually a pretty good game, and looking back, it's actually got a lot of good reasons to play it. It's maybe not exactly what an old school Assassin's Creed
I don't know about that one, Chief. I really don't know. Not a lot of people are happy about this.
Fan wants, but it's still a
because most of the time you couldn't even parkour properly because everything was kind of buggy and shitty.
Damn good game.
Oof.
And number 3 is Starfield, which, yeah, just stick with me on this one. I'm not here to tell you that...
I mean, it is an open world, I guess, but, man, calling it a good... Yeah, it's called top 15 best open world games, not top 15 absolutely most horridly gut-wrenching worst experiences that no one should live through.
The narrative of Starfield is great.
The narrative of Starfield is unfleshed out, stupid, and feels like written by a 5-year-old. Stop.
Mechanics of Starfield are...
The mechanics of Starfield are 4 loading screens in a row if you want to use inefficient fast travel.
Appropriately modern, or whatever. I'm here to...
It's not modern. This is like space punk and done poorly because none of this makes sense.
Tell you that Starfield does a pretty damn good job of creating a big old thing for you to explore and pop.
Well, it creates a whole big old thing for you to explore where everything is the same. You have seen one planet, congratulations, you have seen every planet. They literally don't change. You can't find anything new on anything else. You're going to encounter some unique locations every roughly 20 hours of gameplay, and that's not going to be good.
Populating it with goofy, weird people that have interesting crap to say. Some of them don't, but a lot.
Most of them don't. Most of the NPCs, when they're talking to you, instantaneously act like you have been their best friend since childhood, and they reveal everything to you. This is stupid. Evil characters are comedically evil because the writers are comedically inept.
A lot of them do. It's a very, very Bethesda game. And yes, a lot of people have said that Bethesda games are outdated. And yes, every single Bethesda game that comes out...
They're not outdated, they're just bad, okay? We would honestly not care about the outdated part if the game was good. But the game is not good, okay? We forgive everything if the game is good, but we forgive nothing if the game is bad.
I say, why aren't you just making games with the damn Unreal Engine? Stop making them with this crappy engine. Yes, and I'll probably continue to say that because it applies here. But that doesn't stop it from having a lot of charm and a lot of stuff to see that's just really fun and interesting.
Bethesda couldn't even be asked to make actual, they couldn't even be asked to make more than one ruined location on Earth, okay? You have just a couple of ruined buildings on Earth that are supposed to be recognized monuments, and that's it. It's so stupid.
And number 2 is Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. Now, I am not a fan of Avatar. I think it is a
Well, no one honestly should be, because this game is absolutely garbage.
very dull intellectual property, and I'm not going to pretend that I like it. That doesn't mean this is
The
a bad
only people who unironically liked it were people who unironically wanna be, blue smurf looking savages that connect their hair with random things and then, pass out.
game. It's actually a very good game. Ubisoft just did a good job with this. They kind of gave us a
No,
big blue
it's
cat
not
Far
a
Cry.
good game.
And the benefit of that is that Pandora is
It's a stupid game.
actually an extremely interesting world.
No,
I am
it's
a
not.
living piece of proof that you do not need to love Avatar in order to enjoy
Bruh, you don't also need to hate Avatar to hate this game, okay?
this game. This is a stunning,
Wow.
beautiful game that actually does a decent job of telling some interesting stories within the confines of the narrative lore that's been created for this series. If I'm completely honest, I prefer this game to either of the movies.
Well,
And-
the movies were as stupid as the game, so he got a point there.
Finally, at number 1, it's Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I don't really know what to say about this game. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom have this combination of minimalism and maximalism that it's really hard to pin down exactly. You do have slightly more traditional Zelda stuff thrown in, but it's a pretty off the rails, do whatever you can come up with type adventure. It's minimalist in that you
True,
kind of get
true.
all the tools up front and they all serve a very specific purpose, but it's maximalist in that you are so free to use these things and bend them to your will. Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is basically unlike anything else. How it runs decently on the Nintendo Switch, I don't know, honestly. It's crazy what you can do in this.
It's a good game, but, what's the difference between this and the last one? I don't know, also. Well, if you liked it, at least that's a decent game to like. Anyway, gamer ranks. Funny. Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, Starfield, Assassin's Creed, calling it good. And Diablo 4. Those are some of the games that people are going to be called the biggest disappointments of this year. It is what it is. Anyway, have a nice day. Bye-bye.